Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Blue Spring Ride. This movie tells the story of a high school girl named Futaba Yoshioka who has loved a young man named Kou Tanaka since junior high school. However, Tanaka suddenly changed schools and they lost contact until Futaba finally met him in high school. However, Tanaka's attitude had changed a lot, becoming more reserved and aloof. He also changed his name to Kou Mabuchi and asked Futaba to address him as Mabuchi instead of Tanaka. Will Futaba be able to express her love for Mabuchi this time? Or does Futaba prefer to harbor her feelings of love for Mabuchi? Let's find out in Blue Spring Ride. Blue Spring Ride begins by showing a girl named Futaba Yoshioka who forces herself to be unattractive for her classmates' approval by removing her feminine side and saying that she doesn't like the boys in her class because they are too noisy. Actually, Futaba is a pretty girl and quite popular among students. Because Futaba always said that she disliked the boys, the students in her class then turned their attention to a beautiful girl named Yuri Makita. However, due to her popularity among students, Yuri is always the target of bullying by girls who are jealous of her beauty. Despite being friends with her, Futaba doesn't necessarily bully Yuri. While walking in the school corridor with her friends, Futaba accidentally collides with a young man who reminds her of Tanaka. Thinking that the young man was Tanaka, Futaba then chased after him and finally found out that he was Tanaka, her junior high school classmate who had been her first love. However, a young man walking behind Futaba called Tanaka Mabuchi, so Futaba had assumed that she had the wrong person, even though she was absolutely sure that Mabuchi was Tanaka. When she came home from school, Futaba again met with Tanaka and then chased him, where later Tanaka told her that he was now named Kou Mabuchi. Not only has his name changed, but Futaba also notices that Mabuchi's attitude has also turned cold and more reserved and aloof. Futaba recalled her past in junior high school, where Mabuchi once took her to the summer festival, but Mabuchi never came and decided to change schools. Since then, Futaba has never met Mabuchi again until they accidentally met in the school corridor. One day, when Futaba was buying bread in the school cafeteria, the cafeteria manager thought that she had not paid and asked her to pay immediately. However, Futaba insisted that she had already paid for it. The woman still doesn't believe Futaba and threatens to call school security if she doesn't pay. Seeing this, Yuri tried to help Futaba by saying that she saw that Futaba had already paid for the bread. Likewise with Mabuchi and his friend, a young man named Ayaka Minato, who had seen Futaba pay for her bread. Even Futaba's classmate, a girl named Shuko Murao, also defended Futaba for seeing that she had paid for her bread even though she was standing quite far from Futaba. Finally, a cafeteria clerk told her co-worker that Futaba had paid for the bread. Due to this incident, Futaba becomes friends with Yuki and Shuko and ends her friendship with girls who often bully other girls just because they are more beautiful and popular. Futaba had felt sad and anxious because she had left her friends. But Mabuchi then comforts and convinces her that they are not a real friends because they are only friends with her because she is not popular among young people, so they will not be their rivals in terms of romance. Not long after, Futaba's school held a spring orientation and each class was divided into 5 groups and a class representative would lead each group. Futaba, who decides to make a positive change for herself, then volunteers to become the class representative, was followed by Yuri and Shuko. Seeing Shuko volunteer as the class representative, Kaminato also volunteered and forced Mabuchi to participate. Long story short, Futaba and her friends then went to the camp to participate in the spring orientation activity. Futaba begins to become close friends with Yuri and also Shuko. Even with Kaminato, who was Mabuchi's friend. On the other hand, Kaminato realized that Shuko actually liked their English teacher, Mr. Tanaka, because she always tried to approach Mr. Tanaka. When Futaba is having trouble making a bonfire, a handsome young man named Toma Kikuchi is seen helping her. Toma is a class representative from other classes who is also a smart student. He can explain the purpose of holding the spring orientation very clearly and straightforwardly in front of the teachers and other students. Since Futaba could not explain the purpose of the spring orientation, Mr. Tanaka then asked her to write down the goal and submit it the next morning, so she had to stay up late to finish it. When Futaba fell asleep, because she was too tired, Mabuchi came and helped her complete the task. The next morning, Futaba, Mabuchi, Yuri, Shuko, and Kaminato were so excited to see the sunrise. The next day, While at school, Yuri tells Futaba that she falls in love with Mabuchi after he helps her during a class representative's camp. Hearing this, Futaba pretends not to like Mabuchi, even though she really loves him. Futaba tries to get rid of her feelings of love for Mabuchi. However, Futaba loves Mabuchi even more and finds it difficult to forget him as time goes by. Therefore, she ventured to reveal to Yuri that she actually loved Mabuchi so that there would be no misunderstanding between them. Yuri seemed relieved that Futaba had told the truth. Even though she feels sad, Yuri decides to give up Mabuchi because she treasures her friendship with Futaba. Knowing that Yuri had given up on Mabuchi, Futaba was able to approach Mabuchi more freely, even though until now Mabuchi was still often cold to her. Worried about Mabuchi, Futaba then took the initiative to go to his house and was very surprised when she met Mr. Tanaka. Mr. Tanaka then tells Futaba that Mabuchi is his younger brother. Mr. Tanaka then tells why Mabuchi changed his name, namely because their parents divorced. He also said that Mabuchi's attitude changed drastically after the death of their mother because he felt guilty for not being able to take care of his mother all the time. After knowing this fact, Futaba then searches for Mabuchi's whereabouts and tries to encourage him and comfort him so as not to sink into deep sorrow and grief. Futaba then invites Mabuchi to attend the summer festival, which he agrees. But again Mabuchi did not come on the appointed day, and when Futaba called him, she heard the voice of a girl who was with Mabuchi. The next day, Futaba approached Mabuchi and asked why he didn't come to the summer festival. However, Mabuchi didn't say anything and kept avoiding her. It turns out that Kaminato and the others also know that Mabuchi is close to a girl named Yui Narumi, his classmate in junior high school. When Futaba meets Mabuchi at a fast food restaurant, she realizes that Mabuchi is more concerned with Yui than she is because Mabuchi immediately leaves when Yui calls him. In her sadness, because Mabuchi is more concerned with other girls than herself, Futaba is then approached by Toma, who also happens to be there. Toma then accompanies her, and they engage in casual conversation. Without Fubata or Toma knowing, Mabuchi sees their closeness from outside the window and gets jealous because he actually likes Futaba. One day, Futaba's school holds a festival and Mabuchi invites Yui to come there. Futaba looks displeased and jealous of Yui's presence near Mabuchi. But she could only hold back her sadness. Not long after, Toma approached Futaba and asked her to come to watch a music show where Toma would play in a band. Futaba happily accepted Toma's invitation. But on the other hand, Mabuchi, who saw their closeness, felt jealous. During the musical performance, Toma, who was on stage, called out Futaba's name so that everyone cheered for them because they thought Toma and Futaba were a couple. Mabuchi, who was also there, suddenly felt jealous and rushed to Futaba. Mabuchi intended to whisper something to her. But because Kaminato accidentally bumped Mabuchi, he ended up kissing Futaba by accident, and Toma watched it from the stage, which made him jealous. Yui, who also saw this, then hurriedly left Mabuchi. After that, Mabuchi apologized to Futaba for the incident and considered it an unintentional accident. However, Futaba was annoyed. She hoped that the incident was not an accident and hoped that Mabuchi wanted to kiss her because she loved Mabuchi. Mabuchi then tells about Yui, who turns out to have the same fate as himself, namely his parents divorced, and Yui's father was in the same hospital as Mabuchi's mother. Yui's father has recently died, causing Mabuchi to keep in touch with her frequently. After her father's death, Yui thinks that she has no one else in this world because her mother has remarried and has a new family, so she is very dependent on Mabuchi. Knowing this, Futaba then went to Mabuchi and asked about his choice. However, Mabuchi did not give a clear answer because he just wanted to always be by the side of Yui, who was mourning her father's death. On the other hand, Toma, who knows how much Futaba loves Mabuchi, can't do anything but stay there to support her. Sometime later, Futaba again feels anxious because Mabuchi hasn't come to school for a few days. She then ventured to Yui and asked her to let Mabuchi go because if he continued to be by Yui's side, Mabuchi would actually sink deeper into grief and sadness because of his mother's death. However, Yui refuses Futaba's request and says that she has no one else in this world besides Mabuchi. Yui insists that she will keep trying to make Mabuchi always be by her side and win his love. After finally meeting Mabuchi again, Futaba immediately expressed her love for him. However, Mabuchi reluctantly refuses to date Futaba and Futaba seems to accept his decision gracefully and asks him to remain friends with her. However, Futaba is in fact so sad and down because Mabuchi rejects her. On the other hand, Mabuchi actually wants to be with Futaba. But he still felt indecisive and worried about Yui. Mabuchi then meets Yui, who tells him that she will become stronger so that she is no longer dependent on Mabuchi or others. Yui seems to want to give up Mabuchi so that he can find his own happiness. The next day at school, Toma expresses his love for Futaba. Because it was the first time a young man had said love to her, Futaba was very surprised and was at a loss as to what to do in return. On the other hand, Mabuchi, who felt jealous of Futaba and Toma's closeness, couldn't do anything. Kaminato then suggested that Mabuchi be more open and honest with himself and his feelings for Futaba. But Mabuchi is still worried about Yui and doesn't want her to feel neglected by those closest to her for the umpteenth time. Kaminato, who really cares about his best friend, tries to help Mabuchi because he doesn't want Mabuchi to continue to sink into his sadness. However, Kaminato didn't know what to do until finally Shuko came and cheered him on. Kaminato then got the idea to hold a field trip to Mabuchi's hometown so that he could face his past and rise from adversity. Arriving there, Mabuchi recalled the moment he had with his late mother and felt sad again. But Futaba was always by his side to support him and strengthen him. Futaba and Mabuchi then visit a church, and a priest says that Mabuchi's mother often comes there to pray and writes her prayers in the praying book. His mother always prays for Mabuchi to find happiness and live his life with a smile and full of happiness. Knowing that his mother loves him so much, Mabuchi also expresses all his sadness with tears. On the other hand, Yui then meets Mabuchi and says that she will give up on Mabuchi to get his own happiness, and she is determined to become stronger to live independently. At the same time, Toma also decides to let Futaba go after she confirms that she really loves Mabuchi and will never be able to forget him. Futaba finally finds out that Mabuchi has liked her since they were in middle school. She then meets Mabuchi and expresses her love once again. Mabuchi, who finally realizes that he doesn't need to hide his feelings anymore. He and Futaba later on reconcile and start dating. The moral we can learn from this film is not to be so concerned with the happiness of others that we forget about our own happiness. Always love and respect yourself because you deserve it. Also, never pretend to be just to please others and keep trying to be who you really are